Good evening. This is Ubuntu channel, and it's a Wednesday, just like any other Wednesday, when we get to bring to you meet your leaders or meeting your leaders. And tonight we are looking at governance and current affairs. And to help us tackle this topic, we are actually joined by Davis Lupindula, who is actually a government activist, and I'll be with him right here on the interview. It's a warm Wednesday night or Wednesday evening, and we are so delighted for you to have actually joined us just like you do always. My name is Chaza, and I am your host. I was supposed to be with my co-host Lance, but due to technicalities, he has not actually managed to join us. Allow me to welcome to the program Mr. Davis Lupindula, who is a government activist. Good evening, Mr. Lupindula.
Good evening, Chaza, and good evening, viewers out there. I'm very delighted to join you this evening. And just to correct Chaza, I'm a governance activist, not a government activist. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. I greatly appreciate for that, correction. And to kickstart, just like you have, already started, making me into correction, I'd like to find out more about yourself. Who is actually Mr. Davis Lupindula?
Davis Mwashi Lupindula was born 42 years ago. Actually, I'm an accountant by training. I have a passion. My passion in governance emanates from my early days. I envisage a situation whereby we are going to have institutions of governance working properly for the sake of the people and for the development of this country. I want to see a country, the world, whereby human rights are respected, and then governance system of our country is improved such that it works for the people, not for anybody else. I want to see the country being governed in terms of the constitutionalism and the rule of law, and development that is sustainable, that benefits the people that is supposed to benefit. That is a little about Mr. Davis Mwashi Lupindula. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate for that, insight about yourself. Right now, there's been a lot of, talking as regards, the IMF bailout package, especially from people like yourself. Now that it has materialized, what do you say? What is your reaction about, this bailout, the IMF bailout?
Thank you so much, Chaza, and listeners out there. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the new Dawn government for the success that has been scored in terms of securing an IMF bailout. First of all, so you would appreciate that the IMF doesn't come to knock on our doors. IMF is a creature of all of us. We are members of the IMF. If you go, Zambia joined the IMF in 1965, and currently there are 190 countries who are members of the IMF. So after securing that bailout package, it is not just about the monies, the $1.3 billion extended credit facility program, which will last for 38 months. We are also looking at the pressing issues that this country has been experiencing, such as debt sustainability. Social spending has been reducing. If you see the support that we have been giving in terms of FISIP, supporting social sectors such as people who are vulnerable in our society, it has just been about 0.5, 0.7 of our GDP. But that is not enough to sustain growth in this country. We need to support those that are lowly in our society. Then we are also looking at restructuring our debt, which is no longer sustainable, and creating also space in our budget. Charles, you realize that almost 75% of our domestic revenue goes to debt servicing and the wage bill for our civil service. That is not good for a country that wants to develop. Therefore, Zambia went to the IMF 6 years ago, but they couldn't secure the deal because the IMF doesn't just support a country. It also looks at governance issues. How are you handling your governance issues, such as the fight against corruption, transparency in your government? Are you putting up policies that benefits the people? Once the IMF is convinced, they're able to put us on a program. In short, I'm very much elated that we are into this program. There was no way out. That is the only way in which we can go back into sustainability. Thank you. I'll explain more as we proceed. Thank you.
Do you think this is going to benefit even people from society, I would say common citizens, or is it only going to benefit the state as it were? Or what really are the benefits of this bailout?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Part of the benefits of the IMF bailout, apart from the extended credit facility where they are going to support our balance of payments support. We've been paying a lot of money to external creditors. Therefore, our trade, our balance of payment are actually imbalanced right now. More money is going out than what is remaining for development. So now, part of the program of the IMF is that they want to help us restructure our debt. When we restructure our debt, if, for example, Chaza, you are owing people 1 million kwacha, and then you have got a lot of people that you are owing debtors. You are owing your salary is 1,000. You are owing people 700 kwacha. What actually remains with you is 300 kwacha for you to invest now to your family, your education, and so forth. That was not sustainable in the case of Zambia. We collect money through ZRI, but we had a lot of debt in Congole, a lot of debt from our external, both bilateral and multilateral lenders. Now, what this IMF package will do is that it will allow us to restructure our debt in that we are going to enter into what is called G20 Common Framework for debt, preferable debt treatment. We are going to renegotiate what we had agreed with our lenders. If we had agreed on a particular loan to repay it in 5 years, it is going to be extended to maybe 20 years, 30 years, so that we are paying it, but in smaller portions, so that we are able to save money for development for our country. So how is that going to do? That is going to leave this country with a lot of money now to spend on social sectors like education. One of the program of the IMF is that they are going to do support what is called comprehensive agriculture support, not only FISIP. Agriculture has just been leaning on just fertilizer support program, but no, it is going to be a comprehensive support, meaning that different crops are also going to be supported. Then free education, recruitment of teachers. So this bailout package, of course, there has been a lot of talk in terms of conditionalities and so forth attached to the IMF bailout. No, I want to correct this, that the IMF of the 1980s is no longer the IMF that we are dealing with now. Their particular programs are also linked to economical growth, reducing inequalities, and so forth. It's not only about reforming policies, macro policies like fiscal policy, inflation, and so forth. No, it's actually linked now to poverty reduction. So what this IMF bailout will do will save us with a little bit of money. Instead of paying more to our creditors, we are going to negotiate for longer payment periods. That will allow us to remain with money for development. I will continue to unpack as we go along. Thank you.
There's been a lot of assertions that chiefly this money will be used to actually pay out salaries for civil servants, government workers, and so on and so forth. What should be the areas of concentration? Could this, if true, be a good reason to actually use this bailout?
Actually, what is going to happen in this bailout package? Part of the program that the IMF are doing, because when you get a bailout, there is what we call obligatory reforms that you agree, commonly referred to as conditionalities. Part of it is that this government has to promote good governance and transparency in the way they are going to spend. Again, we are also going to reform how we contract our debt. Right now, there's a new legislation that the Minister of Finance recently and the President is about to assent, which will allow Parliament to be the sole authority in terms of debt contraction. Actually, what the IMF wants to do in Zambia is to promote economical growth. This money will not be used for salaries because it is the same huge wage bill, which is part of the reason why we're on an IMF program, because our domestic revenue, debt servicing, and wage bill was clopping about 75% of our debt, of our money, only remaining with 25% for development. So what this IMF package will do is that it will also allow us to access what are called the concessional loans, which are basically cheaper monies to allow us to develop our country. This money will not be used for paying of salaries because there are certain guidelines that have been agreed with the IMF. There will be no need for us to continue increasing domestic debt. We have to reduce debt and promote growth. So those fears are not founded because there will be a program. This program, mind you, Chaza, this program is for 38 months. So in this period of 38 months, there are certain guidelines that we have agreed in terms of prudence management. So government has no leeway to start spending, use such money on salaries. No, that is not what has been agreed in that extended credit framework. Thank you.
You know, in the previous government, there was an outcry that, you know, the government then used to borrow a lot, you know, just for purposes that were not even as beneficial. And as a result, debt was just accruing as it were. What's the difference really between this bailout and, you know, the debt that we incurred during the previous regime?
Thank you so much. You know, the difference is that previously, in the previous regime, because of governance issues that were there, such as corruption and abuse of human rights and other negative governance issues, our country was classified as a junkie country, meaning that we had no credibility to access cheaper loans. So therefore, we had to go to the open market, such as the Eurobonds and all other expensive debt. This is what has led us to this situation, because the IMF cannot come into a country that has macroeconomic stability. It is that problem of borrowing. Now, this extended credit facility is not just going to be given, it is going to be given in a phased approach, because the IMF do a review, either monthly or quarterly review of the agreed framework in that extended credit facility. So the IMF is going to be reviewing according to what the common framework, because mind you, we went with a program to the IMF to say this is how this is how we intend our own homegrown solution. If you see, the president has also launched what is called the 8th National Development Plan. We took a program to the IMF. We are in this debt situation. Therefore, we require an extended credit facility. This is how the IMF came and gave us that money. Now, what that loan has done, it has given us credibility. So we cannot go to the open market and borrow. Moreover, we have a legislation in our parliament now. The Minister of Finance will no longer have the powers to go and contract debt in the night. It has to pass through parliament. And the parliamentary committee will be able now to agree, is this loan that you're about to borrow, what is the interest? Is it beneficial? What is there will be a lot of accountability and scrutiny in terms of how we acquire new debt going forward. So those fears, because they'll be backed by legislation, they are unfounded. There's no way that we are going to go back and do what was happening in the past, because we're under a common agreed program with the IMF for 3 years now.
You've made a good comparison there in terms of, you know, the two governments. I'd like to find out from you, considering that, you know, the current government, the new dawn, has been in existence or in ruling 1 year and I would say slightly over 1 year, 1 year and some weeks now. Do you think they are living up to their campaign, you know, promises?
By and large, from a score of 10, I'll give them 7, 6 to 7. Yeah, because on the governance front, yes, we've made some progress. Of course, it could be better than what we are now, because if you see, when we are doing activism in terms of governance, we don't just look at an ideal country which has proper good governance. We look at also comparability. Where were we and where are we now? They have done so well in terms of political tolerance. If you see, previously there was no political tolerance, and this is one of the characteristics of good governance. There must be tolerance. You must be able to associate with a party of your choice. It's not like today you wear a green thing, a red thing, in the community people will harass you. No. Freedom of the press, closing the media, whatever. If they are covering a stories that don't support a particular party, they are closed. That in that area we have seen an improvement. Of course, it could be better. Then, but the New Dawn government has been trying, but at least they must not relax, because we don't want to rely on goodwill. We want the New Dawn also to do some economical amendment of the constitution. We need a new constitution now to
So Piers, our guest, is having, connectivity challenges, and we hope that he gets back right here on the program. In the meantime, just a reminder, you are watching Ubuntu channel, and tonight we are looking at, governance and current affairs. And this program is titled Meeting Your Leaders. And tonight we are actually hosting Mr. Davis Lupindula right here. And this program comes your way every Wednesday at 21 hours or 9 p.m. Central African time. And to host it every Wednesday is myself, Chaza, and Lance. Unfortunately, Lance has not made it due to some technical issues. And on the program, like I earlier indicated, our guest is having a challenge, and I just hope that, he comes back to join us right here on the program. In case you are joining us, through Facebook, YouTube channel, or any other means, you are actually welcome to the program, and you can participate by dropping us, a message right there in the message box. And we'll be so glad to know that you are right here with us. And Ubuntu channel brings a variety of programs, starting from Sunday all the way throughout the week. And apparently, we've been having, sports, and every Friday, sports is actually so exciting. We give you updates, and not forgetting, some of the games that we get to broadcast live right here. And not forgetting exciting, other programs like the one that comes every Thursday, Pansaka. Pansaka is a program that, is tailor-made especially for those that are over 18, because the topics that are discussed there gets to allude to, marriage and so on and so forth, that cannot be discussed by those that are underage. And not forgetting on this Sunday, we actually have a gospel program where we have, preaching coming your way every Sunday. So do make, a date with us. We have a full package throughout the week. We bring you, all sorts of programs. On a Tuesday, we bring you debate time. And debate time, we give, different topics where our guests get to debate. And so exciting it is. So do make a date with us, and we'll never get to disappoint you. If you are watching us or listening from Facebook or YouTube, do not actually forget to subscribe, and also get to like, our page. Tapias, our guest, is still having a problem to join us. I have to find out on the other side. I'll request our producer to actually take us to a break, And on the other side, we get to join you. Our director, if you are there, please let us have a break. Then on the other side, we get to see if our guest will be with us.
Of infertility is because of infections, typically the chlamydia and the gonorrhea.
Your time is up. Thank you so much.
Okay. Since I've been mentioned, I can react to what comment in the just.
Yes. I haven't finished my point.
Remember,
I haven't finished my point so that my brother can.
Does the Patriotic Front know the kind of damage they have done to our economy and to our country? I do not.
The alleged abduction of Pamela Chisupa, and this case has really kept us on our toes. And in as much as
nobody has been acquitted from this new dawn administration cases that have been started, there's nobody that has been acquitted. Okay.
CJ, foreplay. I'm not talking about jump and begin acting like a kangaroo. No, foreplay. Many of us as Africans, we lack this virtue. This is not there.
Yeah, the time project ku Malabo. What's about the first game toilet jana was Senegal. I think what it is underrated because even the home map you can see the.
Welcome to the program. We are still here on Meeting Your Leaders, and tonight we are hosting Mr. Davis Lupindula. Unfortunately, we had lost him before the break due to connectivity, and he's back here, and we are delighted to have him back. Mr. Lupindula, it's good to have you back.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My apologies. Network is quite bad in Lusaka West here. Thank you.
It is well understood. And Mr. Lupindula, looking at, the two governments, the previous one and the current one, the New Dawn. In the previous one, there was an outcry that, people were arrested arbitrarily and, sometimes even detained without being charged. And it appears even in the New Dawn, the case is not different because we see some people that are arrested, detained without being charged, like Sean Tembo. What is your say on this one? Now, have we really developed? Are we living up to the rule of law, as it were, alluded?
Yeah, it's quite challenging. It's quite disappointing that Sean Tembo could be detained this long just because on the offense of hate speech. I'm told. We can do better. Largely, the New Dawn government has started on a very good trajectory in promotion of the rule of law. They are adhering to constitutionalism and other laws of this country. But it is very disappointing that the police and other the law enforcement agencies could keep Sean Tembo. When Sean Tembo was arrested, I was not quick to comment. We were not quick to comment on from our end. We thought it could be a very serious offense that could have committed. But by and large, I think that is a challenge which we don't want the New Dawn to fall into that temptation. Of course, in the same vein, I also want to take an appeal to the Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue. They also need to do a lot of work in terms of sensitizing our opposition leaders on what constitutes the checks and balances. If you see, of course, two wrongs don't make right. If you see largely Sean Tembo of late He's been issuing statements that we could be, I don't want, this is sub judice. The matter is still in court, but he could do better in terms of the way he's providing checks and balances. But by and large, I think the New Dawn should not go that route. They have started on a good note. Largely, they are promoting the rule of law, but of course, the issue of 10 Tembo is quite disappointing from our end. We don't think we should encourage that kind of path. If Sean Tembo has committed an offense, mind you, let me also take this opportunity to also highlight that actually, even if the New Dawn are on the trajectory of promoting good governance, we haven't yet changed our laws. The Penal Code Act is still the same. Those offenses such as hate speech, different offenses that are there, treason, all those things, defamation of the president, those laws are still there. When we say the rule of law, any offense that you do which is stipulated in our penal code, an opposition leader is still liable, because we are saying the rule of law, because they have to rule in terms of constitutionability and in terms of the rule of law. So the penal code hasn't changed. Until we change our constitution, we will see certain trend that certain opposition leader being arrested or citizen being arrested. That we shouldn't be in a hurry to say the New Dawn is not following the rule of law. No, we have also to push in our pressure so that certain laws are changed, are amended to fit in our democratic advancement that we are pursuing. So we also need to change the constitution. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate. And, we saw in the previous government, we used to have the Ministry of Religious Affairs that was seemingly, there to stop, certain cultures, certain behaviors to penetrate, into the state. But this time around, that one is gone. And recently we had, what they call Lusaka July. I'm sure you are privy to that. And at that event, people have complained that there was a display of, lesbianism and gayism. It looked as though it was an avenue for such, mannerisms. What do you comment, about that event, and also the reading of the religious affairs? Was it really serving the purpose for which it was? Was it a good idea to get rid of it? What's your comment?
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to state very clearly that the July show that is there, it has been there for the last 7 years. It hasn't started under the New Dawn government. And then, yes, this country is promoting human rights. But in this country, according to our constitution, we have stated very clear that we are a Christian nation. And since we espouse to promote the rule of law, gayism, lesbianism are not part of our society. Human rights are universal, but you have to follow the culture that is in that particular area. Gayism, lesbianism, those are cultures that have not been accepted in our society. And the reducing of the Minister of Religious Affairs, reducing to a department under the office of the Vice President, in some way it promotes that department because it is falling under the office of the Vice President. But by and large, we have not reached a stage where our culture practices all such kind of vices, and those vices are not in our penal code. They are an offense in our penal code. Gayism, lesbianism is an offense in our country. So therefore, government must ban that July show, because it is not in conformity with our law, since they are all indication are showing that they are promoting gayism and lesbianism. So government must move in and ban that in the interest of constitutionalism and the rule of law. We don't practice gayism and lesbianism in Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have seen an improvement, in terms of inflation, the inflation rate, and still the common man is complaining. that prices are still high. It appears people were expectant that the inflation rate would directly get to affect prices and probably see them nosediving. What's your comment really? Where's the correlation between the inflation rate and the prices, and also the expectant benefit by the common man in society?
Thank you so much, Chaza. Actually, any government worldwide, in their growth target, they always target a lower rate of inflation. Now, there is a mix-up between the inflation rate and the cost of living. Of course, all those are growth indicators. When the economy, the inflation rate is reducing, the exchange rate is reducing, ideally, those are what we call economical growth indicators. Now, when the inflation rate reduces, what that entails is that goods have not stopped increasing, but inflation is a rate at which goods are increasing in that particular period. For example, like in our case, the inflation rate is 9.8%. What that means is that if the price of bread is 12 kwacha, it means that within this period, bread cannot increase over 13,000 to 13 kwacha 20 ngwe, because the inflation rate, the price of goods and services will be increasing in relation with the inflation rate. Now, what does it benefit a common man there? Because of course there's a conflict. Manufacturers and retailers, they would want a higher price for their goods and services. Consumers want the price to be down. Now, inflation gives an indication for you and me to budget. You will know that if I'm to go to a shop, I don't expect what I want to buy to go more than the rate of inflation. So a lower rate of inflation is better in an economy, because it means that prices are predictable. It means that you don't expect, even when you are doing your budgeting, inflation will guide you to put a provision. If you say, I want to buy a packet of sugar, which is 45 kwacha, and the rate of inflation is 9.8%, which is just 10%, you will know, Chaza, that 10% of that price, if I were to buy this sugar maybe in 10 days' time, I don't expect it to go more than, the price is to increase more than 4 kwacha 15 ngwe. So inflation rate, a lower inflation rate is preferable in an economy. And it will benefit us in the sense that with the lower exchange rate, it means that the prices of imports will go down. So in the long term, if you have seen ShopRite and other chain stores, right now they are beginning to reduce the prices of commodities. Why? It's because of our strong macroeconomic policies, like micro and macroeconomic policies like inflation and exchange rate. They are guiding. So these two, these and many other micro and macroeconomic policies, they are interlinked and connected with the cost of living. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's been an outcry, even before the new dawn came into government, that, the Public Order Act is problematic and it needs to be amended. What have you identified as, a governance activist, which is a problem, in the act and, needs to be changed?
Actually, a lot of civil society and other activists have made a lot of submission. We are excited that the president has gave directive to the Minister of Justice to immediately begin, and we saw the Minister of Justice advertise for people to make recommendation how they want the Public Order Act to be amended. One of the teething issues in the Public Order Act is a notification of 7 days. That is cumbersome. You could be prompted to hold a meeting, maybe in particular in 2 days' time or 3 days' time. You are forced to postpone. So the period of notification must be reduced. And then in an event that the police are heavily burdened with other duties, I think a provision whereby your own marshals could be able to protect your meeting, all such kind of teething issues must be resolved, because This is a colonial law. It was meant to stifle blacks, Pan-Africanists like Kenneth Kaunda and Kumbula when they are fighting for independence. So those things were put there in order to curb Pan-Africanists so that they cannot mobilize for independence. So this is a law that is archaic. We don't need it in a modern society like Zambia, which professes to be a democratic country. We need to do away with this law. But by and large, not everything about it is quite bad. There are some things that we need to maintain. We need security, but by and large, we need to remove laws that make the party ruling at that particular time to abuse it. So we must put safe nets in the Public Order Act. Thank you so much. A lot of civil society have been able to make submissions, and through our partners, we've also made submissions, especially on the notification aspect, Chaza. I think the 7 days notification is way too much.
All right.
Thank you.
There's been, some outcry some few months ago that, the outcomes from the courts and also investigations by DEC and Anti-Corruption Commission were not satisfying, the public, including, the civil society. Right now, we have an outcome, from the constitutional courts that Bowman Lusambo and Malanji are eligible to contest, or rather to recontest in the forthcoming, by-elections. How is the position right now, in the civil society and yourselves, the activists? How much confidence do you have, in these institutions like the courts and also the wings of government, DEC and the Anti-Corruption Commission? Are you pleased with their outcomes?
Thank you so much. I'm happy you have brought, first of all, before I lose my thought, I want to talk about the Constitutional Court ruling on Honorable Bowman Lusambo and Joe Malanji in terms of eligibility. One of the characteristics of good governance is that we need an impartial judiciary, a judiciary which is independent. You saw how much the Constitutional Court was able to pass the suspicious rulings in the past. And by and large, you've seen that they have been able to rule in what is perceived to be in support of the opposition. Now, we want to ask what has changed. Now, we need to go to the genesis of this. We have a problem with our amended constitution of 2016. It has a lot of lacunas. There is one aspect which talks about he who causes a by-election, Article 72(4), talks about a person who causes by-election is not eligible to stand in that particular election. I haven't yet set my eyes on the ruling that has been passed today. I don't know the details, but by and large, how does it, again, when you go to the Electoral Act, it talks about nullification and disqualification being separate. Now, this is confusion in our constitutionalism, because our constitution should be able to speak things that are very clear. Of course, not everything is clear. There's a language of the constitution that lawyers are able to articulate. I'm not an expert in law, but there are certain things that which just must be clear. So, DEC governance institutions, for example, like the Bank of Zambia governor, we are happy that the president was able to assent to that bill, which makes the Bank of Governor being elevated to a level of a judge, where the president no longer has got powers to remove the Bank of Zambia governor until a tribunal is set by a judge and somebody who is qualified in economics and finance being able to sit on that tribunal. That is a very good indication. We also want that thing to be extended also to other governance institutions, like, for example, the FIC, the Director General of the Anti-Corruption Commission. Their tenure must be protected in the Constitution. But so far, we were very worried when this fight against corruption started from our end. We saw that the New Dawn government was moving at a very slow pace in terms of the fight against corruption, because if you look at the FIC report, the Auditor General's report, over all the years, it shows a lot of financial irregularities, misappropriation of funds, and outright theft of public funds. But when the New Dawn government took over power, the fight against corruption was very slow. Little did we know that they were carrying out investigations. Right now, we've seen they are making arrests. and taking those people to court. That is what we want from our end. We are very excited at the pace in which the fight against corruption is moving, but we need that fight against corruption to be institutionalized, institution of governance that fight this fight. We must make sure that their tenure are protected so that they can be able to fight past, present, and future corruption. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And, according to the way you are coming out, you are seemingly giving this, government probably 9.9 out of 10, but you indicated that you are giving them 6 to 7 out of 10. I'd like to find out, where are you taking, the 3 or 4? What area were given a chance to speak even to the president, right now? What would you tell him to improve so that, we get to see them get close to 10 out of 10 or get 10 out of 10?
The institution, actually, what the challenge that we have had from our end in terms of governance is that there is a lot of hindrance in the pace at which they are moving, reforming these institutions. Because you see, when you are fighting corruption, you need also the integrity of the people that are handling the fight against corruption. So this government has been moving so slow in terms of institutional changes, ensuring that they realign the civil service, which is able to us, not in terms of promoting cadreism, no, but reforming it so that it is able to move and implement its manifesto properly. We don't understand why they have that they are relaxing in terms of the pace they are moving, especially in the areas of the fight against corruption, reforming institutions of governance, and so forth. So they need to move at a very supersonic speed in terms of reforming institutions of governance. So that is where we are worried in terms of the pace at which they are moving in terms of reforming these institutions. For example, I'll give you an example. If you have the judiciary, for example, I'll give you an example of the judiciary. If within the judiciary, for example, a very good example I'll give you is the Director of Public Prosecution. Currently, she's facing a tribunal at the JCC. We don't understand why a person who is conflicted, who has to deal with her own issues of professional misconduct, could still be kept as a DPP. How is she going to attend to those files that are pending on a desk in terms of fighting against corruption? These things don't seem to be matching. The president was supposed to suspend Madam Lillian Sion so that she's able to concentrate on her issues. This laxity, we have clocked a year with this issue of the DPP. We are with the issue of Miringolunga and so forth. So the pace, we are worried with the pace. I'll give you a lot of examples as we go along. This is the 3 that we are talking about. Certain things are so clear. Let the president suspend the DPP, allow her to attend to her own issues. Let somebody else act there. If the Judicial Complaint Authority find that she did not commit any professional misconduct, then she's brought back. This is how, like, for example, I'll give an example, the way the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health. The moment there was that allegation that there's some improper conduct on his part, he was removed from the position. Why? To allow investigations. How does a DPP who is facing the JCC, the following morning she's reporting to her office? Those things, there's a mismatch there. So those are the examples that is very closer to me. I'll give you more examples as we go along. That is the 3 we're talking about. But in terms of the political will, that is what has elected us. You see, when we are dealing with governance issues, Chaza, we always do what is called comparability. We are watching as we go along. If they slide, we'll be the first ones to talk. We are watching. We need to encourage them. They have the enthusiasm to advance the country. We need to give them accolades where they deserve it. But where, especially the pace, from our end, we're extremely worried. The pace, they are moving at a very slow pace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have, a few minutes before we get to conclude. about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on how much time, the director will give us. So this time around, I would like to invite, the listeners, the viewers out there, those that, have sent in messages. In case there are messages, we can have them on. We can read them now. And if there's anybody that would like to join us in the studio is open. As we get to move on, waiting for messages and some people to join us. I can see a message already. Our constitution has a lot of lacunas. Do we always need the constitutional court to interpret what our constitution entails? Secondly, what processes are being undertaken to amend the constitution to the expectations of Zambians? This one is coming from Jonathan Chipindani. Thank you so much, Jonathan. We do greatly appreciate our guest there. I believe you have taken note of those two questions. Then we'll read probably three or so. Then you get to react to them. What is the way forward for ECZ after today's ruling in Concord? This one is coming from Lawrence Mulungu. Lawrence, thank you so much. We do appreciate that. If there's any other message, you may bring it on. In the meantime, I would like you to react to those three questions that have come from the viewers there.
Thank you so much. In the first place, I'll start with, is it Jonathan?
Yes.
Jonathan, yeah, I think I share your concern. There is no way that this country can have such a very defective constitution. We just have to wait every day to wait from our constitutional court to make a determination. Of course, we have issues with this constitutional court. We expected that the new dawn, this is also an area where we have a problem with the new dawn, because we have issues with this constitutional court. If we go back to our memory lane, we had the problem with the 2016 presidential petition. This is a court that almost brought us problems in terms of certain interpretation. We had the problem of 14 days and so forth. We have a presidential petition that hasn't been determined up to now. We've seen our colleagues in Kenya, how the judiciary was able to dispose of a petition within 14 days. It was very exciting, but this court really disappointed Zambians. We expected that the new dawn government, we are going to have a judicial reforms, the Kenyan way. Kenya had a very serious judicial reforms where they had to disband the judiciary and ask the judges to reapply. And then there was an integrity committee that was going to check, apart from qualification, look at the performance of this judge, how this judge has conducted him or herself in the past. So this has helped Kenya to come up with not a perfect judiciary, but something that they can rely on as a country. You saw how they have disposed of the Raila Odinga presidential petition. Very impressive, transparent. The petitioner was able to present their cases. At the end of the day, they passed a ruling within 14 days. But with us here, we had adjournment and adjournments until the petitioners were chased. This almost risked the security of this country. We expected the new dawn to have judicial reforms. On this end, we are quite disappointed. Up to now, we don't have judicial reforms. As to the process, we are happy on this one because we were just told that they don't intend to drive the process, because one of the reasons that made the Bill 10 collapse because it was driven by the PF. But we, from our end, we've heard that they intend to assign this to institutions like LAS to spearhead the constitutional reform. That would be a very good step in the right direction. Lawrence and Jonathan, the questions are almost the same. I hope I've answered. We need the constitutional review, not driven by the government, but other stakeholders. The government is also an interested party in this process, so that we could deal with this issue of the constitution once and for all. At least it can stand the test of time. Maybe the next 50 years, that's when we think of attending to our constitution. We are tired of these many reviews, the Mungomba Commission, the Mwanakato Commission. Each government that comes in will do its own review. We hope and trust that this time around, we'll be able to come up with a document that will be generally accepted by this generation, at least even for the next 50 years. We could only be doing a amendment where necessary. So we need to deal with this issue of the constitution. It's really an emergency. We can't have a country, as we are speaking now, because of this constitution. There will be new filing in of new nomination in Kabushi. Now the costs that parties have spent campaigning up to this end, who is going to pay them because of this defective constitution? Candidates who are supposed to stand were deprived because of the same constitution, because the Electoral Commission of Zambia read the same constitution when they passed that press statement to say certain people are not eligible. Again, those who have taken the matter to court, they are using the same constitution. Now, these are not even matters that need a lot of interpretation. Qualification of a candidate must be very clear from the constitution and other subsidiary laws. So we have a problem. We immediately, with emergence, we need the constitution. We need this constitution to be amended. Lacunas removed that are not contentious, and other issues, so that we can move on. We are tired of talking about the constitution, each and every government that we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And talking about the amendments, I'd like to find out from you which mode of amending the amendment of the constitution would you commend? Is it by the as it were the means of the referendum, or any other means that you may commend? Constituent assembly and so on.
Thank you so much. I think before we go to that, this time around, my recommendation that first of all, when we start dealing with the constitutional amendment, let us deal with the issues that are not contentious separately, because many a time, it is not that everything that was being built in was bad. It is certain issues that were put there which were contentious to the other parties. For example, things like proportional representation, those were progressive laws. But because we normally package everything under one, so therefore political interests will set in, and then we'll have a problem where even a bill that contains progressive clauses. So I wanted to recommend a phased approach. Let's identify issues that are not contentious. We deal with them. Then those issues that are quite contentious, then we can refer them to a referendum. That way we are going to make progress. A phased approach, let's deal with issues. So they have an inter-party dialogue. They have a platform where political parties are able to meet, these that are represented in parliament. They have a platform, either the chairmanship of the church and so forth. They need to agree on issues that are not contentious. Those issues that they can just sit on a cup of coffee and say, these laws, all of us don't agree with this, we pass it. Then those issues that appear contentious, we refer them to a constituent assembly, a progressive forum where people participate, because we need to promote good governance by allowing citizen participation in the formation of laws. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I heard you in answering Jonathan's question that there's need for changes in terms of the Concord. I'd like to find out, is it the office bearers of the Constitutional Court, or do you propose that the court itself may be gotten rid of? What's a proposition in terms of the change?
Yeah, my proposition, first of all, the hierarchy of the courts. We have the Supreme Court, we have the Constitutional Court. I think from our end here, we need the judges from the Constitution, from the Supreme Court should also be the same judges that can sit as a Constitutional Court. Then also on the issue of the judges, I think we need to go the Kenyan route, where we form a committee that is going to scrutinize which people are going to be judges. We've seen a lot of judges that passing questionable rulings. We don't need to be a country whereby we don't have faith in certain individuals, if we may say, who are serving on that bench. So what we need from our end is that we need to go radical reforms in the judiciary. It will require perhaps asking judges to reapply. We pass an act of parliament whereby we ask certain judges to reapply. Those that pass the integrity tests, they remain on our bench. Then the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court must be reconciled. There is this confusion between the two courts. So this also sends a wrong signals. Perhaps maybe we expand the Supreme Court, which can also sit as a Constitutional Court, the same judges. Thank you.
Your submission, sounds so meritorious. You told me you're not a lawyer, but your submission is really fortifying there. We appear to have been joined by Jonathan in the studio. Please bring him on. If Jonathan is right on standby, we'll request, okay, it appears that he has left. Probably we have taken long to make cognizance of him. I did not want to cut short, our guest as he was explaining on his submissions in terms of, the amendments as regards the Constitutional Court. We'll be concluding in about 5 minutes. I would request if there's any message that we have left out before we make conclusion, if you can bring it on. And Mr. Lupindula, I don't know, when we were discussing, the IMF, you said there were a few things that you wanted to bring out. Before we conclude, or rather in conclusion, is there anything you'd like to bring out in terms of the IMF bailout?
Thank you so much. Yeah, what I wanted to bring out is that there is this myth about the IMF, which I wanted to put in context. Zambia has been a member of the IMF from 1965, and IMF is not any strange person. IMF, there are Zambians working for the IMF. There are Kenyans working for the IMF. There are 190 countries as of 2022 who are members of the IMF. So the IMF provides different programs to countries based on your requests. There are some countries that don't request for a bailout in terms of extended credit facility. Some will just require the IMF to help them in policy formulations. Some would require them to assist them with expanded finance like ourselves. And of course, debt restructuring and so forth. So we shouldn't see, when we fail in terms of the way we implement our programs, it is not the IMF by and large that has failed. It is ourselves. Because the IMF of nowadays, since 1980, there has been a lot of reforms. It is us who take a program there. And then we agree also, they have also principles which they follow in terms of economics. We reach a common understanding. It's a homegrown solution, but supported by the IMF, which is just a 38 months. IMF is not a new colonizer which has come to Zambia. They are just on a program for the next 38 months. Zambia will have that the right to pursue its own economical programs after it reaches a debt sustainability level. In short, IMF has just helped us to gain the credibility we need in terms of dealing. We see, if you look at bankers, they have got what they call Credit Reference Bureau. If you borrow from Barclays Bank, you don't pay your debt properly. Barclays Bank will spread your name to the Credit Reference Bureau. Even if you go to Stanbic, they have got a data where they have to refer before they can approve your loan. This is a situation we're in as Zambia. We are classified as a junk country, a country that cannot be relied upon in terms of finances. That's why we are accessing cheaper loans like from Eurobonds and so forth. That was not health for the country. We need to be able to utilize the concessional loans like ADB Bank, which have lower interest, flexible repayment period, unlike going to Eurobonds, which I can liken to Katondo, borrowing from Katondo Street. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate that. But before we go, I would request the director to bring the messages on screen again so that we may just read them through before we get to wind up. I remember one of which came from, Soldier Boo there. Another one came from Jonathan. Please bring them on. We read them on just before we get to exit. I'm sure the director there is, bringing the messages. So, Mr. Lupindula, what has been your inspiration as, for you to become a governance activist? And I would like to know, because the government also is having their eyes wide open. If you were given an appointment by the government, would you take it up?
An opportunity, of course, that offer, I can look at it in the context. Does it give me the integrity to be able to participate? I'll give you an example. For example, if today I'm told to say, join the Human Rights Commission, Human Rights Commission, I think that is an opportunity to serve. If I'm told to say, no, serve in this commission, which gives me an opportunity to be able to advance the governance system of the country, that is something that I can consider, I can sit and look at. But in terms of just for the sake of suppression, it's what we are not able to make them accountable. I think that one will be a matter for a debate. But in terms of advancing, so you talked about advancing what has been my inspiration. I aspire to have a country where the rule of law is respected. Citizens are able to enjoy human rights. Perhaps that has been my childhood fight to ensure that vices like rigging of elections, suppression of the will of the people, arbitrary arrest of the opposition. That is why even on the issue of Sean Tembo, I've been able to express that is very unfortunate. The new dawn should not be tempted to take that route of arresting, no matter how provocative that thing may be. But by and large, I also want to emphasize that to the opposition that the Penal Code Act has not been amended up to now. All those laws that we were talking about in the previous government, they are still in our statutes. Not until we reform the constitution. We are going to have certain arrests. You wake up this morning, you insult the president. The law is there, which specifically states that any insulting remarks to the president constitutes a criminal offense. Those laws are there. So that's why, from our end, we are not too quick to use the word persecution. When we see an arrest, we look at the offense. You go on video this morning, you issue a statement to say, no, the president has done this without none. We're also promoting what is called evidence-based conversations. Because if we allow it without some kind of referring to the statute, we could have a problem. Because we have social media platform nowadays. If I can just issue a very inflammatory statement, it will go all over the world. So all those we need to strike a balance. Let us enjoy our freedom of expression, but evidence-based kind of conversation or fair comments. You read something from a particular newspaper, it becomes your fair comment. That is where we should enjoy our rights. But to just wake up and say, Chaza has done this, Chaza has stolen. You see, a reputation is what you have to use. Credibility, even here, we are just talking about the IMF. The IMF could not approve the facility because there were credibility issues. They had no credit. They didn't see any credibility in the previous regime. They knew that even if we were to give them their governance record, the corruption issues, human rights, and so forth, this money could be used to suppress the rights of citizens. So all those things, they come in the picture. So by and large, what am I trying to say? What I'm saying is that as we enjoy our freedom of expression, let us also work on a knowledge-based kind of conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lupindula. You know, you've been so good. Your explanations are, so fortifying. We even greatly appreciate, your time to actually be on this program. We shall definitely call upon you even next time. Do not shut your door, behind us.
Thank you so much, Chaza. I'm deeply humbled. We are always ready for our nation to share the little that we know. This is our country. Collectively, we can develop it. You are welcome anytime. I'll be available. Thank you so much.
We also do
Thank you.
appreciate, our listeners and also our viewers, not forgetting those of you that have taken time, to send in those messages, the likes of, Jonathan, Lawrence, not forgetting Enoch, Sojabu, we greatly appreciate. And those of you that did not send in any message, but for watching, we greatly appreciate. My name is Chaza. Till next time, I'm saying God bless you all. Till then, we are out of here.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.